How's it going, YouTube? Don here. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to pass your big coding interviews. So what I'm going to talk about in this concept is not necessarily going to be on the technical side of things, but it's going to be more on the mindset side of things. And the reason why I'm talking about the technical, or rather the mindset part of it, rather than the technical, is one, because you can easily look the technical up on the web, right? I have videos out there explaining lead code problems. You know, most people don't struggle with the technical aspect of things because internally they know what to do. But the problem is when they actually execute it, right? So that's why I wanted to create this video, because I went through a lot of failures and I went through a lot of failed interviews because of this one thing that I was doing wrong. So make sure you stay till the end so you get a big overview and you get the entire picture of this concept. So what is this concept? Now before I get to that, I want to tell you a story, right? A couple stories actually. So as you know, my first big interview was with LinkedIn, right? That was about almost a year ago now. And I made it all the way to the on-site. I never expected it. And what happened is I kept delaying the interview process, delay, because I felt I wasn't ready, right? And of course, there were some things that I did wrong from a technical side of things, such as memorizing lead code questions, but that's not really the part of the video that I'm going to cover in this. Feel free to watch my interview experience with LinkedIn. It's going to be on the channel. So anyway, what I found was the more I put it off, the more nervous I got, and the more likelihood and the more I felt, the more likely I was to fuck up, right? And what's the reason for this? Is because the more I studied, the more I realized that I knew nothing, right? When I saw a coding problem that I would have solved like 500 coding problems, for example, and then I would always be focusing on the one or the two hard leak code problems that I didn't know how to do, right? And I just put all my energy into thinking, what problem don't I know, right? What if I get that problem, right? Now what this did for me is it put too much unneeded pressure on myself in order that when I got to the interview, I got a problem that I'd never seen before. And because I was kind of replaying this issue in my head, it kind of went to real life, right? So now that you have an overview, and I also had that when I interviewed at TikTok, and I'm going to interview with Expedia in a bit, so stay tuned for a video on that. So anyway, what I found was I just was so nervous, and whenever I took interviews with like these little startups that I didn't really care about, I would do surprisingly well in them because I didn't care about them. So it got me thinking, right? It got me thinking, like, why is it that I royally screw up on all these big interviews with all these big tech companies that pay a lot of money and, have these generous benefits packages, and then these small startups I tend to do a lot better. This is something that puzzled me for a long, long time. And I think now is the time to kind of share my answer because I have been trying different things and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. And I just wanted to share those insights with you in this video today. So, what happened was I put too much importance on this interview, right? The more I put focus on this particular interview and doing well and also not screwing up, the more likely I was to actually screw up because I was focusing on the negative and the result rather than the process to get there, right? And this was something that was kind of a reoccurring theme in all my technical coding interviews. Now specifically, this is the lead code style interviews, the ones where you have to solve, your typical data structures and algorithms. The more I put into these lead code style interviews, the more nervous I got and the more I royally screwed up, especially with these big tech companies. And what I was focusing on in my prep was I was focusing on memorizing the questions because there's a possibility that I might get these problems on the interview, rather than understanding the underlying concept, which is a lot more important. Because what I've learned over, and this is kind of going off topic here, what I've learned is the concept is more important, because unless you can solve 1,500 or 2,000 lead code problems, it's just not possible. What you need to do is you need to understand the underlying concept, and I wasn't focusing on that. Because this was so important to me, my rational brain kind of went into the back, and then I was operating based on emotions, right? So I was like, oh my god, I have to nail this interview, so therefore I'm going to memorize all the problems. And this is definitely the wrong way to go, right? So getting back to this this concept of excess importance, what is it? Excess importance is something that I learned from a mindset mentor of mine. It basically states that the more importance you put on something, the more effort that you put on something, the more you are likely to be attached to the outcome. So, a simple way to put this is, let's just say that you're really fancying a girl in your class, right? And you keep giving her attention, keep giving her attention, keep giving her attention, and then she's not giving you any attention back, because you put so much importance on this one figure that the equilibrium wants to lower you down, and wants to lower you to the point of equilibrium, right? Because you're putting too much pressure, what it wants to do is it want to pull you down, right? So that's basically excess importance. Now how do you solve this in specific? So how you solve this is, there's a couple ways, but the way that worked out the best for me is, imagine there's one, which is having a plan B. Having a plan B has always been something, after I understood this concept, that has really helped me out. It's like, let's take back the coding interview example. If I don't succeed in this LinkedIn interview, that's okay, because I have the TikTok interview coming up, right? Now, another thing that really helped me out along the way is imagining the worst case scenario and thinking, you know what? If the worst case scenario happens, it doesn't matter. I'll be okay, right? And this is a concept I got not only from my mindset mentor, but also Layla Hormozi. Instead of saying, what if, you say, even if I fail this interview, even if I can't solve this coding problem on the spot, even if I can't solve this take-home project in the 24 hours, even if, then I would have learned something, and I would have taken something from that experience. And once I thought from this viewpoint, it made me a lot more courageous, and it made me a lot more willing to face rejection, which was definitely a big problem, especially in these big companies, right? It helped me to focus, it helped me to shut off that emotional part of my brain and really focus on the rational part. The rational part being, okay, let's focus on understanding these concepts, and then, seeing how can it apply to different problems, instead of, trying to memorize all the problems and failing that way, right? So this is a concept that I got not only from my mindset mentor, but also a book called I forgot the name, but I'll attach it in the description below. Feel free to have a look on Amazon. But if you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.